Hi, Lexi. I see you there in the chat. Okay, welcome everybody. It is Monday the 8th, so we are here for our career research and decision making. I'm just going to scroll through real quick. If everyone can either give me a manual thumbs up or use the thumbs up little button to show me that you can hear me okay. Davion, Diana, Penelope, you hear me okay? Doing a sound check. Okay, Dylan, Edward, can you hear okay? Hey, Arabella, can you hear okay? All right, looks like we're all good there. A few more coming in. All right, so remember, for me to let you into the room, you have to have a name that I recognize. Some of you have different usernames or a different teacher as your regular teacher in the course. Okay, so today we're going to have a guest speaker, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about her background and her experience in business, what she does for a living, and also being an entrepreneur, because in the last couple of years, she started her own business. And as you know, you guys have had several assignments where you have needed to kind of come up with a imagine, like you are imagining starting your own business and coming up with a plan to start a business. So we got a lot of people coming in here. Okay. So let's just go over the norms real quick. If you want to take some notes, go ahead and have your notebook ready. Hopefully, if you're, well, I don't think we're going to go off on any other screen, so it's okay if you're on a different device. Your mic is muted, but I will unmute you for questions at certain points during the presentation. The chat box is set so that only myself and the co-host, which is Mrs. Folsom, I'll introduce her in a moment, can see it. No worries about other people seeing your responses. If you have questions during the presentation, can you write those down, because we will call for those at certain times. Having your camera on is optional, but if you can imagine being a guest speaker and being in front of an audience and having like everyone have paper bags over their head, that's kind of the equivalent of having your camera off. So it's kind of nice if you have your camera on so you can see each other, but if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. And this is a reminder, meetings are recorded and posted. So where are we, right? So if you are looking at your sheet that has your pacing chart on it, we are at 4.01 and 4.02 this week. We're already at week 14. So what should you have completed so far? That would be assignments 1.00 through 3.07. Now, as you may notice, when you get to 3.07, there is no DBA there. So once you have submitted all assignments through 3.06 and those assignments have been graded, and you see that in your gradebook, go ahead and shoot me an email and ask for the password for 3.07, and I will send it your way. Okay, so before we get started, does anyone have any urgent questions that they need addressed before I turn it over to our guest speaker? No? Okay. All right, so let's talk about our objective for today. So after participating in this live lesson, you should be able to understand some elements of starting your own business. So what does it take to start your own business? And also understand a little bit about what environmental engineering is. That's what our guest speaker does for a living. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you to answer a question in the chat box after the speaker's presentation. So you'll want to pay attention to what she's saying. And although I don't have this on a slide anywhere, a little secret, Mrs. Folsom, who's our guest speaker for today, her and I have been friends since we were in kindergarten. We used to ride the school bus together, so we have known each other for many, 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 many years. So our guest speaker for today, without further ado, is Suzannah Folsom, and she owns a business called Juturna. If I pronounced that correct, Susie? Did I? At Juturna Consulting, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her background, what she needed for as far as education to get into the career she's in, and then to take that career and also use it to start a business. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to her. Give me a moment, guys, because I have to stop sharing. All right, Mrs. Folsom, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Keller. Just want to say hello to all the students out there, and just let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see?
Not yet. You have to hit share screen, I think.
I see. Okay. Okay, can you see me now?
There we go. Yep.
Yay. Okay. So thank you everybody for having me this afternoon as your speaker. I am honored to speak to the leaders of the future. And I was really excited when Ms. Keller was telling me about her class, that she said that so many of you were interested in being entrepreneurs. So I think that's really, really cool. I'm going to try to be really real with you about my experience and hopefully give you some really honest feedback and commentary on what it takes to start a business. So I'm Suzannah Folsom. And again, I have known Ms. Keller since we were in kindergarten, back in the day, back down in Fort Myers, Florida. So we both live here in Tampa now and get to hang out quite a bit. But I'm an environmental engineer, and I went to college for engineering up at the University of Florida. And I also have a master's degree of water resource management. Got that right after getting my bachelor's degree. And my business is called Juturna Consulting, and I named my business Juturna after the Roman goddess of wells, springs, and fountains. So one of the things when you start your own business, you have to come up with a name for it. It has to be a name that nobody else is using in the state, because you have to register with the state, and you have to have a unique name. So that was one of the first things that I had to do, is figure out, well, what am I going to call my business? And I was surprised that nobody had already taken this one, but I did take it, and that is the name of my company. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it took to start my business, what my experience level was before starting the business. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about startup capital and what skills are necessary for being successful in starting a business. And then I'd love to take any questions that you have about being an entrepreneur, starting a business, all of that. So if I'm shifting my gaze around, I have a setup of 3 monitors, and so just I don't know if you can still see my face, but I will be looking over to the right. That's just because I am looking at my 3rd monitor. So first things first. I did not just start a business right out of high school. So, prior to starting my business, I did go to college. It wasn't just 4 years. It was actually took me 6 years to graduate all the way. I did work for 9 years as a consultant, and that's an engineer that does short-term projects for larger clients, giving specialized advice. Then I worked for 10 years for the regional local water authority, Tampa Bay Water. And so that gave me some good government experience. And then I started my own business 3 years ago in September 2018. So before you start a business, there's a few things, and I think I saw this in some of Ms. Keller's slides for presentations that you've already seen, but there's a few things that you have to be successful in starting a business. So if you want to start a business, you need to have a product or a service that nobody else is providing. It has to be something unique. It has to be something that they're going to buy yours rather than someone else's. So it has to be unique, that nobody else is doing it, or you have to do it faster than other people. You have to do it less expensive or cheaper. Sometimes people will use your services if you're friendlier than them. Think Chick-fil-A. When you go through the drive-through there, they're extremely friendly compared to some other drive-throughs. But better quality. that's a way that you can differentiate your services from other people's, is if you have better quality. You might have a better location. If the only Chick-fil-A is in Newport Richey, but the McDonald's is on the corner, I'll probably go to the McDonald's rather than the Chick-fil-A. So you have to have a service or a product that is unique or better than somebody else's to be successful. So you have to come up with that idea, and it has to be something that you're good at. So just think of that. So you need to have a skill set. One way that you could get that skill set is working for somebody who does it really well. So if you wanted to start a business manufacturing bicycles, a good way to do that would be to start working for someone else who manufactures bicycles, get really good at doing that there, and then branch off and start your own business. So, that's a good way to do things, to get really good at something before you run out and you do it on your own. Now, to start a business, you have to have some startup capital, and I'll go a little bit more into what the expenses are with starting a business, but you do have to have some money to start out with. So it's not something that you can do without any money to start out with. Unfortunately, you do need to have money to start out, but there are a lot of resources out there where you can get small business loans. You could do a personal loan with your bank. You could invest your own money in that. So another thing that you have to start a business, especially if you want to get a loan, is you have to have a really good business plan. And that business plan is going to lay out what it is that you're going to do, how you're going to grow, who your target clients or clientele or customers are, and how you're going to manage your business, what kind of a structure of opening your business. Are you going to be a sole proprietorship? Are you going to be a limited liability company? So there's lots of things like that. And I won't get into too many of those details, but there's that all goes into what your business plan is. And that business plan, it's not just something you write one time. You've got to go back and revisit that anytime something changes in your business. Say you hire somebody, you probably want to change your business plan to say what it is that that person's going to do in your business. Maybe you open a new branch location. So then you want to have in your business plan that you have 2 locations, what this location is going to do and what that location is going to do. So having a good business plan is also important. Oh no. Okay, so in my line of work in water resources engineering, there's a lot of different components that are part of that. So specifically, I work in the consulting industry. But there's also specifically for public water supply projects. So we have to deal with industry, we have to deal with agriculture, we have to deal with public supply, that's us. But we're always competing with who is going to use the water. Some of it has to be used for the environment, some of it has to be used for recreation. So one of the things that I do is I help to consult where water priorities should be. So that's one thing that I do. And that's something I have almost 20 years of experience in. So some of my experience prior to starting my business, I worked on large reservoir projects. The picture over on the right-hand side here, that's a giant pump that I took part in the design of. I also designed really large pipelines and water treatment facilities. So those are some of the things that I had experience in before starting my business. So like I said before, you have to have some startup capital, and this is some real numbers from my specific business. So to start my business, I had to take $30,000 of my own personal money and put it into my business. And in the first year that I was in business, I only made $40,000. So you can do that math. That means that in my first year of business, I only made $10,000. And that's a whole lot less than I was making in salary at my government job before that. So one of the things you have to understand when you start a business, you're not always going to be profitable to begin with. In fact, most businesses don't make any profit at all until they've been in business for 2 years. So I was actually very profitable, or very fortunate to make any profit in the first year. But in my second year, we made 4 times that amount of money, so $160,000. And then in my third year, we made $380,000. So definitely some fantastic growth occurred in my business. And that was all during COVID, when things were crazy and the whole world was turned upside down. So I've been very fortunate to have a successful business. Now, this graph that I'm showing here, it shows what that cumulative amount of money and revenue that we've made, as well as each one of these lines is a year that's gone by. So we're just a little past 3 years of being in business. I have 3 lines on this graph. I have an orange line, a blue line, and a green line. The blue line is my expenses. So you can see for my first year of being in business, my blue line was higher than the money that I had actually received in payments. So that's actually kind of a scary place to be. But after my second year, they were about the same. And after my third year, they're about the same. So what that means is that I've been able to keep my expenses current with what the revenue is that I brought in. So what kind of expenses do I have, you ask? Well, let me tell you. The expenses that you have in a typical business, and it depends on what kind of a business you have, but these are the expenses that I have in my business. So I have payroll, and that's for myself, and I have 6 employees. So I have all of them that I have to pay. All of them are working part-time for me. I hope to get to the point someday when I can pay for benefits and people working full-time, but I'm not quite there yet as a business. But all of the people working for me are happy to work part-time. And maybe that they have other part-time jobs, or they have other responsibilities that they can only work part-time. So that's actually working out really well. You have to pay taxes. Taxes is a big deal when you have a business. I have been in trouble with the IRS 3 times, not bad, but for not doing my taxes correctly. So having a really good accountant helping to walk you through those things is really important. And the IRS will fine you if you do things incorrectly. So just important to note, taxes are important. They're also very confusing. And so you need good help there. So I pay rent. I actually have an office. This is a picture of my office kind of on the right-hand side here. And so I pay rent for my office. So that's one expense that I have. It's there every single month. I also have electric, internet, and phone that I have to pay for. That's not included in my rent. So in addition to my rent, I have those monthly expenses. Now, to start a business, you also have to have for me personally, I had to have a computer. I had to have some specialized software, and all those are costs that were upfront costs that I've continued to have as a business. I also had to have a website, and insurance is very important. I have commercial insurance, workers' comp, professional liability, and travel insurance. So I also had to buy some office furniture. I got some really good deals on some used furniture and some discounted used furniture that has furnished my office, and it looks fantastic. So you can find some really good deals out there, and that was actually a lot more fun shopping for that than I thought it was going to be. But you also need office supplies. So you need print cartridges, you need paper, pencils, you need to have notepads and other things like that. Coffee. Don't underestimate the importance of having coffee as a business. So those are all things that you have to have and keep going. Now, some of those are startup costs, and some of those are annual costs. Some of those are monthly costs, and those are all things that you need to budget as part of your business plan. So there's many benefits of owning a business, but a couple of them I have listed here. When you do own a business, you have complete freedom of schedule. So you don't have to work 8 to 5 anymore. You can work whenever you want to. You can work from 10 to 6 or 10 to 3, or you can work at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. You can pretty much set your own schedule when you own a business. Now, when you start having employees and you have to give them direction and be their boss, that gets a little bit trickier because then you have to work when they work. But you do have a little bit more freedom. You don't have to ask anybody's permission if you want to go on vacation or take Friday afternoon off. When you're the owner, you can do what you want. You also have the freedom of ideas. So if you have worked somewhere and you've had a good idea and somebody has ignored it, that's frustrating. But when you're the owner, do what you say goes. So that's a good thing about owning a business. You also have control over who you work with. When you're the owner and you don't like working with somebody, you can get rid of them. You can fire them. You also get to choose who you get to hire. So you're completely in control over that. So if you've ever worked somewhere, which you probably haven't because you're 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but if you've ever, had to be in a club or on a sports team with somebody and you don't like them, if you've ever been in a situation, you probably didn't get to pick all of your teammates. You kind of got stuck who you got stuck with. But when you own your own business, you get to choose who you work with. Another thing, and I've edited this slide from previous presentations where I've used it, but you get to choose where your profits and what your profits are used are. You get to distribute them as you see fit. So now that I have employees, I know that some of those profits, if I want to keep my employees, I need to share some of those profits with my employees, but I get to distribute them as I see fit. If I want to use my profits and donate them to a charity, I can do that. If I want to use my profits and buy a new printer or improve my office furniture or do things like that, that is all stuff that I can choose that I want to do with. And I'll show you, can you guys see my picture? So I have Juturna playing cards. That's one of the things I've used my money for. I have really cool business cards. I have Juturna consulting thumb drives. So there's lots of things that you can do when you have profits to try and market your business, as well as, there are charities that I specifically contribute to, like Math Counts and Water for People. So those are all things to consider. When you own a business, you get to decide what happens. Now you got to make a profit before you can give it away, but those are all things to consider. Now I do have 6 employees, like I said before. This is me over on the left-hand side, but I also hired 3 main people that I work with. I also have 2 other staff engineers and a student intern from the University of South Florida. So hiring your team is really important, and hiring is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Even during crazy COVID times, it was hard to hire. For every person that I have on my team, I've probably interviewed 4 or 5 people. So when you have a business, you need to remember that hiring people takes time. Going out there and looking for people. And the best way that I've found to do that is just to be staying networked, being part of local business organizations. And most of the people that I've worked with are people that I've known for several years. And they're people that know me, I know them. I knew that they were not working currently or had just left their job. And I was able to contact them and say, hey, how would you like to come and work with me? And none of them accepted on the first ask. So that's another thing. When you have a business, you have to be persistent. You have to keep asking. And most of them accepted on the 2nd or 3rd try. One of them, it took me about 6 tries, but they do eventually say yes. Someone will eventually say yes if you keep asking. So that's persistence is very important as a business owner with your employees, but also with your clients and your customers. Not everybody buys your product the first time you put it in front of them. Sometimes you have to do that multiple times, or they have to, hear about it and then get a positive reference from somebody else. So hiring my team has been important, and keeping them on board is also important. To do that, I have to give them training. I have to support their their own professional organizations, have to get jobs that they actually are interested in. So when you're a consultant, you have to go out and you have to win work. So you have to write proposals or write statements of qualifications for jobs. You are compared to other teams and they choose the best one. So you have to be on teams. So typically I ask my staff if they're aware of any opportunities, and I try to go after things that we would all be interested in working on. So there are lots of resources when you're starting a business. So LinkedIn, I'm not sure how familiar you are with LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is kind of like a social media site like Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter or something like that. So LinkedIn is for professionals. It's like the Facebook for professionals, and it's where you list all of your resume information and you make professional posts about a job that you just did or a training that you received. But it's also a place where they have a LinkedIn learning session and they offer courses. So I did an 11-course study in LinkedIn before I ever left my previous job on how to start a business. The SBDC is also, they have a Tampa and a Hillsborough County branch. They were very helpful. I took courses there. I also did a small contractor training with Hillsborough County. And when I first started my business, probably the biggest help that I had was I rented office space and I got administrative help from another engineering company named HSW, and that was also really helpful. Now I've since moved away from there. I've got my own space and my own staff to do the administrative help, but that was really helpful in getting started when it was just me. So Ms. Keller, that is all I have for slides, but I'd love to take any questions.
Okay, so if anyone has a question, go ahead and raise your hand and then I'll unmute you for if you have a question for Mrs. Folsom. All right, it looks like Lexi has a question.
Why does it cost so much to start a business?
Well, for me, it cost money. I had to buy a really fancy computer that could do some high-level modeling. So that cost a little bit of money. And let's see, what were some of my other big expenses? I had to get business cards. I had to get a web page.
So what you had to do mostly was like buy things that was kind of needed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I had to get a printer. Then I had to get office furniture. So all of those things were things that I had to purchase. Now,
Would it be like less if you would it be less if you like already had almost all of the stuff except the office furniture?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. So
Thank
if I
you.
would have had a really great computer before I left my other job, then I probably would have been okay. But when I left my other job, I had to get a new computer. I had to get a new phone because I had to turn in the phone that I had. They did let me keep my telephone number, which I thought was really cool. But there were a lot of things that I had in my previous job that I no longer had in this new job. Software was another really big expense for me. Some of the software, I think I've probably bought about $6,000 just in software, specialty software for the kind of work that I do. And then the insurance, purchasing the insurance up front because you have to have liability insurance before you can get work anywhere. That was an upfront cost that I had to pay to begin with.
Okay, it looks like, is it Jasleen? Jasleen, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's Jasleen. So I was wondering, I don't know if this is like relevant or anything, but I remember I got accepted into a model agency and we were doing the practice and stuff, and I got pulled aside. Not got pulled aside, like everybody came together and I was like, hey, to get into like the actual thing, I was like, you got to pay this, and I was confused, but I didn't really ask it. asked why we had to pay. I don't know if this is like relevant or anything, but do you know why? I'm confused.
Well, it sounds like some sort of fee to participate in whatever program it is that you were signing up for. Yeah, so that could be very similar to what Mrs. Folsom was talking about business startup costs, that there are fees and things you have to pay and taxes and registration fees to register your name with the state. I myself have started up a nonprofit charity and I had to register the name with the state in order to get a bank account and all these things. So there's a lot of costs associated with different businesses and organizations. That makes
Okay.
sense? Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the question. Okay, and Isabella is here. And I know Isabella, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, wants to be like a zoologist or a veterinarian. Okay, Isabella?
So I was wondering if you had to do anything different, like if you redid your business, would you change anything?
Ooh, that's a great question. So one thing that I probably would have done different was to start out from the beginning with a partner. That's something that I wanted to do from the beginning, but I didn't have a good partner. Because I personally have a lot of strengths and a lot of weaknesses. So I think it would have been fantastic to have started out from the beginning with a partner who kind of would kind of fill in my weaknesses, if that makes sense. So and that's just me personally. I'm the kind of person who likes to work with people. I don't like working just all by myself. And I'm thrilled to have 6 people working with me now. But from the beginning, if I would have had a really great partner that could had either started a business before with a little bit more experience in that. And then the other thing I would say is that I would have done a lot better at doing my taxes and learning how to do my taxes, because that's been a continuing point of frustration for me, is just really being confused about the whole tax system and how that works for businesses.
And that's an important thing that you bring up as well, Mrs. Folsom, that you know, with taxes, you mentioned, you know, hiring an accountant to help you with that. And that's the thing, when you're a business owner, you have to delegate different things to different people. In the case of doing her taxes, getting an accountant, you know, she might have other people that she refers things out to. She doesn't like those marketing tools like the business cards and or the playing cards and the flash drives and things. She doesn't make those herself, right? She has to have someone make those for her. So it's delegating those responsibilities out to other people. So that's a good question, Isabella. All right, does anybody have any other questions for Mrs. Folsom? No? Okay, so here comes the question. So if everybody can open up your chat box, see if I can find my chat box here. Someone else said they're thinking of becoming a zoologist too. Lexi and Isabella. Oh, there goes my phone. All right, so in the chat box, if you can type 2 things that you learned from the presentation today, whether it was about starting a business or a little bit about environmental engineering. Now, are you seeing, can you see the chat box, Mrs. Folsom?
Oh gosh, let me see.
If not, I can read them to you.
Okay, I think I can see 5 comments.
Okay. Hannah asked me what was my charity for. It was in honor of my husband. It was called Henry's Angels. They help the cancer patients. All right, I've had Isabella put her comment in the chat box. Is somebody else put? Somebody has a DBA is going to go. Okay, Arabella, thank you. Somebody said she learned that it costs a lot to start a business. Okay, thank you. Okay, so 2 things that you learned in the chat box. How to start a business and things that will help with starting the business.
Miss Keller, while we're killing time, I can tell you one thing, that as 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, if you guys are thinking, gosh, would I be good at starting my own business? So I can tell you one thing that is definitely a determinant when you get to that point in your life, as to whether or not you would be able to start your own business, because you have to be such a self-motivated person. If you're the kind of person who wakes up on your own in the morning and doesn't have to have your parents yanking you out of bed, if you're the kind of person who does your homework on your own without being nagged, if you're the kind of person who turns things in on time, that means you're going to be a good business owner. But if if somebody constantly has to be on you to wake up, to turn your homework in, to get things in on time, then you need to have a boss. So that's just a simple thing. Hey, if you're good at managing yourself, you would be a great entrepreneur. If not, you probably need to work somewhere where you have a good boss.
That's a very, very good point, actually. And that's a wonderful analogy. It looks like Lexi has a question. Hi, Lexi.
Can I join on my other computer? This one's like glitching.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it said that some other comments here, Mrs. Folsom, that you need to be positive and maybe have a co-owner. Someone learned about different expenses, and that you work with water, and you have to register yourself with the state for a business name. That's a good thing to remember, because you don't want to just start getting, marketing materials for something, and someone else already has that name, then you can get sued. Things required to start a business, expenses of business, costs can be high. You have to think about office supplies and things like business cards, and that you have a very unique name for your business. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or anything else they can add to the chat box that they learned from Mrs. Folsom? All right, so before we say goodbye here, let's see.
Ms. Keller, can you see Dylan Allen's comments? You need to have a good business plan and you need to pay taxes and have insurance. Can you see that one? Because that's the only one I can see. Ms. Keller, I just wanted to make sure you can see that.
I'll have to scroll back because I don't see that one. I see a whole bunch of other ones. That's a good one, remembering about paying taxes.
I just want to make sure they're getting credit for their, if I'm the only one who can see it.
Well, everyone, let's, I know your mics are off, so we're not talking over each other, but in a moment I will turn them off so you can all say thank you to Mrs. Folsom for joining us today. I just wanted to remind you that we are at week 14 on the PACE chart. So once you've submitted everything through 3.06, make sure it's been graded and then shoot me an email and I will send you that password for 3.07, and then you can start working on module 4. All right, so let me see if I can figure out how to stop sharing here, and we can all say our thanks to Mrs. Folsom for being here. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so I have it set so you can all unmute yourselves if you want to say thank you, and then you're welcome to head out.
Thank you so very much, Ms.
Thank
Folsom.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for being here today.
Also, I have an idea for any of you who might want to start a business for technology. Tech
Oh,
Wizards. I'm giving out that name idea. Tech Wizards.
so then you would just have to check with the state and make sure no one else has that, and then you could have that name. That's a good idea. Well, thank you all for being here. It was good to see you all here, and email or text me if you need anything, especially that password for 3.07, okay? All right, have a good
password, but you're sadly not my teacher, so.
Oh, yeah, so the passwords are different, yes. We all do set our own password, so no, my password would not work for you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you for having me, Miss
You
Keller.
can hear me.
I have a kitty for everyone. I'm joking, it's not actually mine. You can just take a look at my profile picture and it's for everyone.
All right, guys, have a good rest of the day.
You too, bye.
Bye.